So let's do Speak No Evil, the new movie, which has been advertised for a while, but it actually isn't coming. It's been a while for it to release, with this very sort of minimalist poster of James McAvoy.
Very dramatic, half-cast lighting.
Half-cast lighting.
That we talked about the crunchy photography style that a lot of boxing posters get, where they clearly up the clarity, and I could just see every pore and little fleck of dirt and hair just perfectly defined.
Really harsh.
Just over-sharpened.
So Speak No Evil is a new film directed by James Watkins, who's made films like Eden Lake. He's a British director. And I think, first of all, just to context, James and I saw this at a screening last week. A very raucous screening.
I haven't actually told you yet about the extension of what happened. I just never had time to tell you because we have too many conversations. You know the woman next to me?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a woman next to me, I want to say...
Yeah. And let's just clarify. Look, James and I, forever, we will always be thankful to go to a screening. It is a privilege, and it is a great...
Often great ways to see films.
But this screening was... typically when we go, they are... P&I, press and industry, and like you have film people there. We recognise fellow content creators that go there, all that stuff. None of that this time. We didn't recognise a single person.
Sometimes it's just some guy works at a media company. The email goes round to the team. Does anyone want to go to this thing?
But there were lots of influencers and just people from different environments, and we realised quite early, before the film started, this crowd was really raucous and alive, and
I think there's a big sort of drinks occasion made before the film, so everyone had definitely had a couple of glasses.
And we'll talk about this in review. There were times when that was there was times when that kind of lifted the experience, but undeniably there was chatting,
especially in the third act where the action ramps up. People giving a running commentary and a sort of "Go on, go get it! No, turn back!"
I knew the person next to James. I felt very sorry. We had this really interesting thing where James was next to this woman who I'm sure you explained about, and then I ended up bumping into someone from uni I hadn't seen in like 10 years, having this sort of kind of conversation here. And I felt sorry for you because this woman straight away, never met her before, was just like, I'm gonna have to hold your hand if I get scared, won't I?
She said the same thing twice, which was like, it's like, you will keep me safe if I get scared, won't you? And I was like stuffing my face with popcorn, being like, I mean, sure, whatever you want. Made that joke again. And what I haven't told you is within the first 2 minutes of the film, she squeezed my knee, which just, I didn't acknowledge it, but I was just immediately like, what the fuck are you doing? Please just don't do that. And she did it 2 more times
that's
through
so
the run of that
uncomfortable.
film, like a jump, and she squeezed my knee. And I just was like, can you please just leave me alone? And then they were doing that thing in the third act where they were giving a running commentary. I don't know if you heard me say.
You did. You quite rightly told them to be quiet.
I was like, do you mind? The annoying thing is so many other people were doing it. They actually really took the power out of me saying, can you stop doing that? But when it's right next to you, and it's like, don't go through that door.
Yeah.
No, what are you talking about? Get in the car.
Yeah,
I was like, please, can you please stop talking? It's really annoying.
It was one of those rare occasions where I think the people who weren't chatting were in the minority.
Yeah.
You felt like you were in a sea of just people. So that is a disappointment.
Anyway,
that's just context.
That's just for our experience.
I'm really sorry. Also, like, good on you for having...
I mean, it was fine.
I was just saying you have
annoying.
patience. You did correct them, but I also...
You know when you're watching something, I can feel a presence on my right side, just being like, Anyway, but nonetheless, Speak No Evil. So James Watkins came out beforehand and said, I just want to say thank you for coming to this screening. When I was making this film, I said it's a Blumhouse movie. We should say that, huge horror production house. And he said, if I wanted to make this movie, my condition was that I wanted to make it in the UK because I wanted to make something that spoke to me in my experience in my life. And they said yes. Now, I just want to say straight away, I knew nothing about Speak No Evil. I had not seen a trailer. All I knew was the poster. I did not know the premise or anything. As far as I was aware, the whole thing was set in Italy. So I just went with it. And I believe, as with all of these things, the less you know of these films, the absolute better. I'd say that's true for almost every
film in life. Yes, but particularly of this one here.
Like, imagine if you had just been sat down for Dune Part 2 without ever knowing what you were going to watch. You would just be...
Well, basically kind of... Yeah. But yeah.
You'd seen the trailer.
I had seen the trailer, but yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So, but Speak No Evil, based off of a Danish film from 2022, actually, and adapted into the English language, and you picked up by Blumhouse and made into a much bigger film. Starring James McAvoy, Aisling Franciosi, who we loved in God's Creatures. Mackenzie Davis is an actor I've really liked for a while. Scoot McNairy, also I've loved. And actually, Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy were in that TV show together I watched called *Halt and Catch Fire*. So really strong acting talent and great talent from the kids as well. We begin the film in Italy, a gorgeous part of Tuscany, high on a hill. And we meet American couple played by Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy and their young daughter. And they're having a very quiet, lovely time on holiday. When arriving at the hotel is James McAvoy and his wife and his son. And immediately they are a little bit louder than everyone else at the hotel, quite vocal. There's this moment where James McAvoy immediately does a running bomb into the swimming pool. And it's this slight cliche of British tourists abroad, but never tipping over too much. But they're also incredibly friendly and over nice, but friendly in a way that is just, again, just that
like
hair too much.
Confident and unfiltered.
Yes.
Like very honest and upfront. Yeah.
Through circumstances that I won't, won't spoil, the families become friends and friendly on holiday, and they have dinner together. And obviously, there's this mirror image, of course, that the American couple have their daughter, and James McAvoy and his wife have their son, and they get chatting. And there is this brief moment where, as Americans in London, they say, "Oh, we haven't really explored much of the UK," and they say, "Oh, you've got to go to the West Country," and they say, "Oh, we haven't really gone out that far." He says, "Oh, you must come out and visit us at the farm," and he says, "Okay, I will." He says, "You will." Great, you will. Fantastic. And it's this sort of slightly uncomfortable moment, but moves on. Anyway, sure enough, they return home back to England. Life carries on. And then a postcard arrives, says, "Don't forget, we had a lovely time in Tuscany. We'd love for you to come and join us at our farm." The wife says, "We don't really know these people. A weekend's a bit of a long time to go and join them." But because of the circumstances in the movie, sure enough, the American couple and their daughter find themselves driving to this farm in Devon, to spend the weekend with James McAvoy and his family. We should mention as well that James McAvoy's son has this medical condition, we're told, where unfortunately he cannot...
his tongue is a bit too big.
Too small.
Oh, too small.
Too small for his mouth. And you're kind of thinking that's probably where the kind of maybe Speak No Evil title comes from, perhaps. But ultimately, you have a very social dynamic film. Now, I mentioned Blumhouse at the beginning. I think it's important to say this isn't a horror film. This is very much more a thriller.
Interesting, because in a featurette, James McAvoy said, "This is a horror film."
Oh, it's not
X,
a horror
Y,
film.
and Z.
No, it's not a horror film.
I agree with you.
It's a complete thriller. There you go. It's social-based. It's this sort of awkward city meets country environment. James, Speak
That's
No
all
Evil.
like social clash of city meets environment and like sort of American meets Brit twist in a way, because I think in a lot of ways the American couple are a bit more reserved than the British couple in some senses, but you have this like urban versus country clash of like the values that they have, how much sex they're having. They're then confronted with all of their demons as they're learning about how they like to operate, and all of that is really good fun. And of course, as audience members, we're projecting our own versions of that morality onto them. The script is like, it's so many times I'm watching it and I'm like, this is really good fun, but also like completely ridiculous. And a lot of the times I thought, especially in the crowd we were watching it in, some of the moments in the script, I was like, this is just so far out there, but nonetheless fun to watch it all play out. James McAvoy is brilliant in it, and it's proof that, I said this to you before we went in, you could put James McAvoy in anything and he's just going to go for it. I wonder if maybe in this film, James McAvoy's character of Paddy has maybe one or two too many ideas attributed to him. And I think he's run with everything, and he's got so many different dynamics and things to say and things to do, and he carries a lot of the momentum of the film. I almost think, are you trying to do a little too much here? But the thrill element of it and the rush and the escape, which they don't hold you in suspense as to whether or not something's gone writ It's always clear from the marketing that something is going to go horrifically wrong. So it's like action towards the third act is very fun to see play out. And it's both this like thrilling but funny but slightly strange, fun script that is, I think it's just solid, good fun. I'm not exactly like thinking about the deep themes and metaphors. I think I had a good idea of what this was when I went in. It played out as I thought it would, and it's good fun.
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, really?
I had a really great time with it. I mean, I basically agree with everything you're saying, but I got such a great experience with it, despite the context of our audience, that I really loved it. I've not been thinking about the deeper themes at all.
No.
But I first of all, it's just a proper nail biter.
It's very tense.
Very, very tense. And I love that the tension is completely about social dynamics and people. It's not
Politeness
necessarily
as well.
about, quiet bang. It's not something creepy in the woods. It is just the way that a slight sentence might be said, or that someone can say something that's just that touch uncomfortable, but because people are too polite and too obeying the social rules, the unspoken social rules, and then in a way metaphorically, the American couple are being tortured by their own niceness, their own politeness. And there's a line that James McAvoy sort of has later in the film that really kind of speaks to that, and I really enjoyed that. But and that dynamic would only work if you had actors that could hold it, which they do. All four of them are fantastic, and the kids as well are great.
Yes, very good kids.
I like this element that the poster was already giving me like retro kind of vibes, but when I watched the film, it's the closest thing it reminds me to. There's a 1971 movie called Straw Dogs, Dustin Hoffman, Sam Peckinpah movie, which is very similar in the sense that it's about an American couple living in the British countryside, and that gets quite nasty and sinister. And that is also about a man feeling emasculated by, his function and role as a man. And there's kind of echoes of that. I never actually found moments where I thought, oh, that's completely ridiculous, because I feel that's so built into this genre.
Right,
and was so, because all the rest of it was so meticulously, I think, really well directed and really well orchestrated. I never kind of rolled my eyes, even when there's a very pivotal moment in the center of the film where you think the film's going to go a certain direction, and then a decision is made to go another direction. The whole audience went, no. Yeah. But I'm like, yes, but I don't mind that, because we've built in the context of that character who is going through something else, and that's what's happening here in front of me on the screen. So I'm dancing around spoilers here the whole time. But I really enjoyed watching it, and there were moments in the third act, which is great fun.
Yeah.
There was a particular moment where, something almost happens and it doesn't, and then, the whole audience was like, ah, yeah, and I really had a proper thigh slapping moment. I was really surprised by it. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's got many deeper themes, but as an execution, particularly also from a studio, from studio production, I had a really great time.
I think it's also a film you could enjoy equally at home as well, like watching it with a partner or with friends. Really, it's a good sleepover film, actually.
Yes, it is
really
a
good sleepover. It always has like a Scream feel to it, where like it's nasty and sinister, but also very fun and playful.
Dark as well.
It's
suitably dark.
It's
it's obviously building towards a sort of mystery at the heart of it. When that sort of is revealed, I thought, wow, that is dark, and I thought it kind of stuck the landing, because then the film then becomes another thing. Afterwards.
I guess like moments where I thought a couple of scenes had run their course, and I feel like, are we elongating this to play on the nail? I enjoy the tension, the nail biting, but maybe I was just like, okay, we're gonna go for round 3 of this version of the scene. Like in particular, like what stuff with the kids, and even towards the end there's a really great moment. I think actually one of my favorite moments, where I actually think the scene went on too long, is when everyone knows exactly what's going on, but they can't admit it to each other yet. And it's this, maybe you forgot this scene. I'm like, this is so silly, but fun and playful. Yeah. So I had a couple of friends who said it looked really silly, and I want to say to them, it is a bit, but I had a good time with it, and it's worth seeing. But I actually think, like, especially Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy, I really believed them as a couple.
Yes.
They were very sort of natural and sort of, in a way, like quite dry, in a way that really worked for their characters.
Well, that's what I wondered, because they are actors who have worked together for a long time with each other before.
Yes,
I wonder if that kind of builds. Yeah.
There's great moments, like if you've ever stayed somewhere where you're in a house that's very sort of overly furnished and cluttered, and they get to the bed and there are stains on there, and like, should we say something? I don't think we can say anything. Let's just like hold out. And
but I find it interesting comparing it with a film. It's interesting that it's come so quickly after something like Blink Twice. Yeah, another film about going to basically holiday somewhere, but something is slightly amiss. And I was watching Speak No Evil thinking, no, this is so much better than Blink Twice, because I felt like the mystery is so much more better executed and not simplistic. I agree, it's a great sleepover movie, but it's dark, it's sinister, and it is a bit silly, but
And James McAvoy is built like a tank in this. He's got these huge shoulders, and he loves to physically sort of emasculate Scoot McNairy. He's always grabbing him by the shoulders and patting him on the back. And he's pushing them all out of their comfort zone, taking them on walks. Like, let's jump into the water. He's very sort of like liberal and okay with putting his body out there. And
I do think there's like this. I think the film kind of quite successfully walks this kind of tightrope where, on one hand, it could have become a much more cerebral, almost satirical study of middle-class politeness and almost like a play.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like Carnage. You've seen them Carnage.
Yes, like Carnage. Yeah, good example. Like, and then or it could have gone the other way and become really gratuitous and really over the top and really silly. I think it just about balanced it enough for me.
You know what else? Oh, sorry.
No, by the thing I was just going to say is when you mentioned James McAvoy, I was watching him and I was like, I think Paul Mescal should follow some of what McAvoy has done. Yeah. And I think I'd love to see Paul Mescal play a very threatening, sinister presence, because Paul Mescal, like McAvoy, has this kind of Brando physicality. McAvoy more now, when he was a bit scrawnier as Mr. Tumnus. But I'd love to see, people often say, sorry, it's a tangent about Paul Mescal, but people say about Paul Mescal, he kind of has that kind of Brando physicality, right? And remember, Marlon Brando, one of his most famous roles was Streetcar Named Desire. And in Streetcar Named Desire, the whole thing about Stanley Kowalski is that he's big, he's loud, he's like charismatic, but he's also incredibly sinister. And particularly with the way that story ends, I'd love to see Paul Mescal adopt that kind of role.
He did a little bit in God's Creatures, have more of a threatening side to him, which I thought was interesting for the time. And it's an interesting thing for him to do, considering where his career sort of led him down. But I agree, it would be good to see more of that.
The thing that, sorry, I will let you back to the film, but the thing that made me think that is I rewatched All of Us Strangers recently, and the cheeky sort of flirtation he has with Andrew Scott at the very beginning. Like, it's not sinister at all, but I saw it as just acting. I was like, oh, I'd love to see you really like toy with someone and really bring it out. Anyway.
And McAvoy does monologues, and he has these bipolar like face drops where he's smiling and all of a sudden it isn't. And it actually reminds me of like these choose your own adventure, pick left or right video game, like quick time event things. Where like if you've ever played Until Dawn, where like you're presented with, you're being chased and there's two corridors, left or right, which one are you going to do? And watching it, you're like, well, I would have done this. So it's fun to like play along with that.
I think it's sorry, I know you're trying to say there, but I think it's unfortunate that the film does slightly fall into that very, very cliche trap of like, people from the city are nice and people from the country are weird. Like, which it has fun like toying with it, but like ultimately it doesn't do that cliche any favors.
It's everything I find scary. Every time I go to the countryside and I'm like, it's just dark around us for kilometers. And if we had a heart attack right now, it would take them ages to get here. Like there's no signal. It's pitch black. I can't leave here. I was like, George, it's everything I hate about the countryside. But yes, that is Speak No Evil.
I did have a great time, and I knew I had a good time because I went back and I said to Anna, I was like, look, you're never gonna see this film because it's too dark and too sinister, but can I tell you everything that happens in it? And it took me half an hour. She got to the end, she went, wow, I'm glad I'm not seeing that.
She wouldn't like it at all. Even though it's not scary.
Anna doesn't like dark things. Here's the bizarre thing about Anna, okay? If it's a fictional movie like Speak No Evil, like very sinister stuff, very dark, she'll be like, oh, no. If it's a true crime podcast, be like, and then he decapitated her and buried her. She eats it up.
Yeah, how interesting.
How bizarre.
It's the artificial nature of it is what makes it. How strange.
Anna's a very... will dream every night and a very impressive dreamer. So if she sees or hears a story like that, I couldn't even tell her that late at night because it would infiltrate her dreams. She'd have dreams about it.
Talia loves a concept, an elevator pitch concept. So anything that's like fantasy sci-fi concept, she loves. But if I told her some couples meet in Italy, but something's wrong, she's in. She doesn't like sort of too open as a concept from the get-go. It has to be like, I want to know the hook. And then she gets really sucked into it.
But I don't know if I think I might have enjoyed this maybe more than other people did.
Yeah,
and I'm sure
I had fun time.
I was chatting to someone at your birthday about it who had seen the original Danish one. They said they loved it, and I'm sure, which is about a Danish couple and a Dutch couple. I'm sure that's fantastic as well. I really did have a great time with it. I really did enjoy
James
it.
McAvoy can do everything. And I think in this film, he does do everything. I said to you, I was like, I wonder if they gave his character one too many mental health problems. Like, is he bipolar? Probably. Has he got like a sort of, what is it called, like a psychosis or projection? I think so too. Let's just do all
complex,
of them. Maybe I was like seeing all of the takes of what we could do with ideas for his character. And I was like, it's maybe one too many ideas for me, but he pulls it off. The question is not of whether or not he can achieve it. It's just he is this acting force physically and sort of from his performance.
The film would be lesser without him in it. It completely rests on his shoulders. Actually,
you could put him in like on the stage at the Globe. You could put him as Professor X in a studio film, and you could put him in something really interesting and independent, and he will just deliver every single time.
Like one of his career's best performances is Split, which is not a great. it's an okay movie, but like his work in it is phenomenal.
Yeah. And playing 100 characters in that film as well. But yeah, guys, that was Speak No Evil. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts on how you got on with the film. So if you had your thoughts, questions, concerns, reviews, please send them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us on the VIP tier on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show. So please send those in if you want to have them read out on the show.
Well done,
circular
James,
going round, which you can do out there.
That was Speak No Evil.